Hello friends, and welcome back to another episode. In this episode I'm going to show you the Canon A-1, and it's a wonderful camera. So anyways, this was kind of built in an electronic circuit, a microprocessor, and this was 1978 this camera was released. Nikon answered with the FA. So if you're familiar with the FA, with the PASM mode, PASM, this was kind of 5 years ahead of Nikon. This Canon A1 after the AE1, and so there you go. It was after the AE1. So let me walk you around. Let me walk around the camera here. So this is like, this comes off, and under here this is the battery door. It takes a 6-volt battery. Coming over here, this, you press this and it shows you your aperture and shutter inside the viewfinder. In the bottom part of the frame, if you look down in here, it's in the old-fashioned red. It's so cool. If you remember the old electronic calculators and wristwatches from about 1976, 1977, it had this old-fashioned red, those red letters and numbers. Well, that's what they are down here. They're like some red numbers, and it's really old-school throwback to look at that. So that'll tell you, anyways. So when you press that, it's telling you what you're metering, what the camera is metering. So it might say 516 or something like that, which means 1/500 f16, something to that effect. This is the same thing, but it just locks. So this is a AE lock, the top one. So the bottom one just gives you your exposure momentarily, and the top one will lock it. This is the lens release. Let's cover the bottom. Let me get my focus here. This is the battery compartment. This is what you push in to rewind your film, and tripod socket. And this is a really clean copy. So let's cover the top of the camera. So the top of the camera here is your ASA film speed, okay? You just press in this little silver button here. Let me get my focus again. Come on, focus, work with me. You're pressing that little silver button, and you can turn the dial for your ASA film speed. This is the film rewind, of course. You pull it up, unlock the back of the camera. This is your auto exposure compensation, exposure compensation, if you want to, underexpose or overexpose. This is kind of cool here, this little button. If you turn it to the right, you'll see those red numbers down in the bottom. It'll give you your aperture and shutter. If you turn this to the left and cover up that little white dot, you kind of cancel that. So when you press the shutter release halfway, it won't give you your numbers. It won't give you your exposure. Turn it to the right, and then it'll give you your exposure. Okay, of course, the hot shoe. So this is cool here. Let me show you this. So I'll show you 3 modes. There's actually 6 modes for this camera, but 3 of them I don't believe in, and 3 are fundamental to photography. Okay, so let's cover manual. Right now I'm using Sunny 16 for what would be TRI-X. Okay, I'm using the equivalent of Sunny 16 for 400 speed film. So you'll notice I have let's say the aperture is at f16. So Sunny 16 would indicate that you put your shutter at 500. I don't know if you can see the 500 in there, but it's 500. Okay, so that's fully manual photography. If you want to go, let's go shutter priority. You turn the lens ring to A, if you can see that. So I've set it to A, which is basically automatic. So then this here, if you look here, this is so cool. Now it's all shutter from here. It's shutter priority. I turn the shutter and it becomes a shutter priority. I choose the shutter and the camera is choosing the corresponding aperture. If I just push this lever to the side here, this is so cool. There's a little thing here. Let me get my focus again. So you just push the button and now you're exposing an aperture side. So you still leave this in A. Okay, you still leave it in A, but now you're in aperture priority. So what you do is you just turn the wheel. You're turning the wheel and you're choosing different, let me get my focus again. You're choosing different apertures, and the camera is choosing the shutter for you. Okay, so the camera chooses the shutter. So you have aperture priority. All you do is move this little lever here. So I'm in aperture priority, AV, and then I turn it. Then it goes back to shutter priority, as long as I'm in A. Then if I turn it out of A, once again, if I turn it out of A, I'm back in fully manual photography, okay? And then I just choose the shutter. I'm choosing the shutter here, and then I'm choosing the aperture manually. So those are the three big modes. Okay, you have your shutter release. Let's see here. So this is to turn the camera off. Basically, you turn it to lock, and then you turn it to here for auto. Auto basically, it just means that you're turning the camera on. So, oh, and there's a little button here. Let me show you this. This protects. Let me get this focus again here. This, if you just push it up, it protects the little wheel, so you don't actually bump your shutter or your aperture. Now, it's just a little protective thing to cover the wheel. So this, let me show you the lens. So this is a beautiful 51.4. I love this lens. It really produces great results. So again, that's a 51.4. Okay, I think I've shown. Oh, and this is called a step down. This is another mode, but I won't go into it because it's for older lenses. But you just press this, and it acts kind of like, think of it as the old depth of field preview. It's kind of the same principle, and that's what that little button does there. But you can actually turn that into a mode. Oh, and here's the PC sync. PC sync for if you want to do old-fashioned strobe photography. You just run a cable instead of the wireless transmitter here in the hot shoe. You just run the old-fashioned cable to your strobe. Okay, so I took two rolls of film. I took one roll of Fuji Superia X-TRA 400 and one roll of TRI-X. So I'll show you here again. This is the old school reminder slot. You tear a flap off the box, and you actually put it in here, so it always tells you if you forget what's in the camera, you'll remember. So make sure that if you're using your camera's built-in, internal reflective meter, you make sure that. So this would be a problem is if your box is showing 400 and you had this at 200 or 800, you're out of sync. It's a built-in check mechanism to check the photographer to make sure that, number one, that the film speed is correct if you're using the internal meter, and it just reminds you of what film is in there, whether it's color or black and white and so forth and so on. So those are the two rolls, Superia X-TRA 400 and TRI-X, and I'll roll those in now. Thank you.